Hi, welcome to Global HR Virtual Summit 2022. Welcome to all the participants and our guest of honor today, the keynote speaker and inaugural session by Dr. Paolo Gallo from Switzerland. Welcome, Dr. Paolo Gallo. It is our honor to host you today for this inaugural session of this HR Summit. I will introduce Dr. Paolo Gallo to you by a brief biography of his. We are fortunate to have such a leader, business leader with us today. Paolo Gallo is a futurist and recognized global expert in human capital, future of work leadership 4.0, energy management, and is ICF certified executive coach. Paolo is adjunct professor in leadership and organizational behavior at SDA Bocconi University, Milan. He is founder of Compass Consulting and has been executive coach of more than 100 senior executives from 20 and more than 20 countries, including several CEOs. Paolo has served as Chief Human Resources Officer at the World Economic Forum in Geneva and has also been Chief Learning Officer at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and Director of Human Resources at the European Bank for Reconstruction Development in London, with prior experience at the International Finance Corporation in Washington, D.C., and at Citigroup in London, New York, and Milan, his hometown. He is also a board member of selected companies. Wow, what a versatile experience. Paolo graduated with top marks in organizational behavior from Bocconi University, Milan, is a chartered fellow of FCIPD UK, and a certified leadership coach from Georgetown University, Washington, D.C. He has worked in more than 80 countries and has authored the award-winning book, The Compass and the Radar, The Art of Building a Rewarding Career While Remaining True to Yourself, published by Bloomsbury in 2018 and translated in 7 languages with 60,000 copies sold worldwide. Paolo has also published many articles with Harvard Business Review, Italian and Arabic editions, Forbes, World Economic Forum Agenda, Irish Tech, Quartz, LINC, Pirelli Magazine Italy, WSJ, Tribune di Geneva, and I won't miss our own magazine, Business Strategy e-magazine. Paolo has delivered more than 100 keynotes, live or virtually, in the 30 countries, such as 10 Downing Street, World Economic Forum in Davos, Ferrari, FCA Fiat, Toyota, Microsoft, Salesforce, IBM, Manpower, Ministry of Economics and Finance, and the list is very long to read it here. Thank you, Dr. Paolo Gallo, to honor us with your keynote address today. Dear participants, today we are going to talk about how to understand and manage transformation in companies in the current scenario. So, Dr. Paolo Gallo, my question to you, what is the role of HR in implementing transformation for a business?
First, is a human quality. Is a human quality.
That's true. Dear viewers or participants, please answer. They are very simple questions. Don't hesitate. It will become very, very interactive session, and Paolo would, open up with more of his expert advice for you. So, Paolo, if we come to HR, because this is HR Summit, so what is the role of HR in managing transformation in the businesses?
But listen, if you follow up on my thinking, I would say, for example, the whole energy that human resources function put in performance management, in rating people, and say you are 3, you are 5, you're mediocre, you're an average, you're kind of okay but not so great, you're great but you have to do that. That's a total waste of time. Total waste of time. The good investment of time is to say, okay, how can I improve my leaders and my team to collaborate, to develop a creativity and an innovative way of doing business, how do we develop the capacity to connect the dots? Is called contextual intelligence to understand the context in which you're operating. How do I improve the communication among members? How do I foster trust and integrity in the organization? And so I encourage people to think that what I said a few minutes ago, that doing better what you've done in the past is not necessarily your next game. Your following game is, to me, a huge element of developing people as human beings, not only as let's say, technical experts, and looking at what does it mean digital transformation and artificial intelligence in your own company. Okay, I give an example. Is IBM used to have 600 recruiters until literally a few years ago. I'm not talking about 1946. I'm talking about 2012, 2014. IBM had more than 600 recruiters. Right now, there are only 3 recruiters at IBM, which is a huge company. Why? They're not recruiting? No, because a huge element of recruitment is done through artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and there is a lot of, let's say, technology behind. And recruiters are trained now to understand the need of the business and to read the results produced by artificial intelligence to find out if candidate A fits within the organization, and if so, where. And if candidate B does not fit in the organization, therefore it's no point to find him or her whatever role. So the job has changed dramatically, and is focused a lot on, let's say, technology plus psychology, rather than a predictable set of questions. You fill the form, you give a ranking to the candidate, you give it to the hiring manager, off you go to the next one. So I'm encouraging HR professionals to think that their role is completely changed, and they can add a huge amount of value if they shift into the new modality of working, and they will become rather irrelevant if they insist in doing what they've done in the past because it's no longer useful.
Mm-hmm. And if say the company, the HR person is seeing that there is a lack in values of the company and the value should be enhanced, or some of the values must be incorporated in the company structure, in the work environment, how and where they should start?
But listen,
for example, HR manager.
No, this is a good question. And in my book, I wrote that the motto of Enron was innovation with integrity, which is a bit of a joke if you think about what Enron has done in the job market. So to me, there are several building blocks that HR professionals and leadership teams should be looking at, which is not put in a nice web page with a nice motto to say we are doing this, we're doing the other. It's not about making statements in an elegant way on a web page. The first one is which kind of people do you want to recruit? Okay, and so at the entry point, you make sure that there is no tolerance for certain, let's say, candidates or certain behaviors. Then you put in place some evaluation system that evaluate people not only in what they do, but how they do it. Okay, so a good manager that is able to sell many products, but is mistreating his own people, that guy should be let go. I mean, you get the person out of the door, even if maybe has achieved good financial results. Then you put some policies in place that you apply in a very systemic way, and you set up a compensation system that put a premium not only on financial results, but also on behavior and modality in which you're working with your teams, with your clients, with your peers, with the organization. So 360 degrees usually helps quite a lot to have that dimension. And then you promote people, they're living these values, and you dismiss people they are not. Because eventually people say, yeah, you do a nice training course, but Roger has done terrible things and still here. That won't work. So it's not about punishing people, but it's about being absolutely firm in say, hey, listen, I can tolerate a bad performance, that I can help you to support a better performance next year, but I would not tolerate certain behaviors, certain harassment, discrimination, insults, disrespect, and if you do it, you're out of the door. You do it twice, the organization get the point and nobody does it. If you tolerate this, little by little permeates in the organization and becomes a way in which is a kind of a normal behavior. And that's pretty tragic for everybody who works in the place.
True. That's actually very, very true, because nobody wants to be treated in a way the other person feels humiliated, or whatever way, even if the person is not up to the mark, up to the level of your say expectation. One needs to motivate or inspire in a nicer way, subtle way.
Sure.
And so if we say transformation in a startup and transformation in an existing business, how would you differentiate between the two, or what are the key things which startups should take care of while incorporating policies and work environment building in their organization?
But listen, transformation, I don't think can be regulated by policy, but rather by a mindset. And a mindset is fundamentally the idea that not that everything is up in the air all the time, but everything is open for discussion, because we can always find different ways or better ways or alternative ways, innovative ways to deliver service and products to your clients. No? And then, of course, you have to put some rules and policy and regulation to frame that dimension. But the starting point is that element. No? And perhaps a very important thing that I saw in organization is welcome failure is a source of innovation, because people tend to be, oh no, I won't do this because there is a chance that I will fail. And I like to think that a good organization is the one they try, they fail, they learn from failure, and they move on and they build from that specific dimension. So also a performance culture is in which taking risk and failing is part of normality, because if you don't take risk and you never fail, you're stuck in the comfort zone. You may be improving, doing what you're doing, but you will never progress, you will never innovate. So I'm encouraging startups and organizations to think it along that dimension. It's fair to say that you work in a huge organization like, I don't know, HSBC or Citibank or Nestlé. It's probably more difficult to move the envelope compared to a startup with 30 people in a garage somewhere. But the mindset is in my view pretty much the same. So what I would love to do, Vanita, and me looking at the time, that if any of the participants have questions, I would love to engage with them personally, if knowing that we have a few minutes left before the end of this webinar.
So dear participants, if you have any question, please do not hesitate. Questions are always simple and answers are also simple. You have heard Paolo, he's such an excellent speaker. He has worked with, we always heard of Davos meet every year. Our Prime Minister goes there, big businessman goes there. He is at the core of that Davos. He has worked there. He is advisor to the chairman of World WEF. So please ask your question, howsoever you, So howsoever you feel, they might be, questions are never stupid, questions are never silly. Please ask your question. You have any doubts, you want anything to ask. In fact, even if it is not related to HR, it is related to your work area, you may ask. He is a great business leader, worked over such a wide number of industries and countries.
No, listen, Vanita, maybe I can add a quick comment before maybe some of your colleagues will shoot a few questions before we close now. Because when I finished my university, I remember I studied economics and business administration and finance and marketing and strategy. But then I decided to do organizational development. And my professor, he was really disappointed at me to say, Paolo, you should not be doing that job. You should be that. You're not going to make a lot of money. You should be a trader. You should be in finance. You should be in marketing. And now I say, listen, I understand that, but making money is not my objective in life. It's not that I don't like money, but doesn't motivate me. I mean, it should be a consequence of what you're doing rather than a motivation of what you're doing, you know, the way I see. And so I decided to do human resources, and it took about 10 years before I was ready to be HR director, and then I've been the HR director for 16 years. But he told me something that stuck in my mind. He told me that the day in which I graduated many years ago, and then he said, "Oh, congratulations! You know, Dr. Gallo was the first time that somebody called me doctor, because you become doctor when you get a master in Italy." And they said, "Are you sure you want to work in human resources?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And they said, "Well, be careful, because your faith in humankind will be shaken on a daily basis." I still remember that phrase. You know, I just graduated. I stood up. I got a clap from, you know, friends and professors. I was very emotional because it was the last day at university. I was wearing my necktie, and, you know, my family was there. But what I do remember, rather than the celebration, is that phrase, no? So when you work in human resources, it's true. I mean, your faith in humankind is shaken, because you see pretty much every behavior that human being may have. Some wonderful, beautiful human beings that are very supportive and caring, but you also see the opposite, which is not necessarily nice to watch, no? So if you engage in a career in human resources, of course, you need to have a set of tools. You need to have the integrity and the trust of the people. Otherwise, you don't go anywhere. And what I was trying to convey in the last few minutes, try to understand that the game has changed, that because you're in the transformation game, not just an improvement game. But as a human being, your faith in humankind will be shaken. And I like to quote my musical hero, which is music hero, which is Bruce Springsteen, that said, you know, life is about keeping your faith after you lose your innocence. Okay, keeping your faith after you lose your innocence. So it's not easy. It's not easy, because at times you feel discouraged. You start to maybe become cynical, or maybe demoralized or negative. But I'm encouraging people not to go in that path and to keep your faith, even if you lose your innocence by meeting some people that are not particularly pleasant. So that's probably what I can give to you guys that work in human resources. I spent my life 30 years working in this role. I enjoyed it. And maybe if I were to talk to the young Paolo, I would say, don't lose your faith. I don't think I have, even if it's fair to say at moments in which you know, I return back home with a more gray hair than the one that I left in the morning.
And I think that's the wonderful ending of this session with that story of your own. That is true. And that is the beauty of our generation. I think we never lost faith in what we dreamt of and what we started with. And that's why each one of us is where we have, whether we have lots of money or not, but we love what we do and we are passionate about what we do. Thank you so much, Paolo,